And for everybody, thank you for joining us. Certainly we could see the name of the company front and center there, Coolabah Metals. And I'll just start out with a little bit of an introduction. Obviously the markets, everybody have been tough. Certainly it's been recalibrated. And so here at 180 Markets for sure, and I'm sure Barclay Pierce and CPS as well, we are looking for those companies that have a tremendously favorable risk reward, right? What we're looking for are those multi-bagger opportunities, because we certainly understand that markets have gotten tougher, and that means we cannot compromise anymore and just let the market do our lifting for us. We really have to understand for every dollar being risked right now, there's $4 or $5 of upside. And that's why we're excited today to talk about Coolabah Metals. And we're joined by the management team, Cameron Provost, who you can see front and center, and also David Ward, who you saw earlier, who's up on the right-hand side, at least on my screen. But anyway, with that introduction, Cameron, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure being here.
Hey, Cameron, like we discussed, people invest in people as much as projects. Can you just tell us a little bit about your history and about yourself?
Not very kind of you. I've got a very diverse background over the last 30 years in executive management, company secretary, directorships. Started a long time ago, particularly with one of the things that I do focus on is that Australian Institute of Company Directors, and focusing on that governance prospect and the importance of that. Working in hospitality for a long time, directorships of private companies, crossing over and then getting into something that I'm really passionate about, which is exploration, and working with people like David and our chairman, Steve Woodham, but doing a lot of work with these guys over the past couple of years in this field, with, as I said, with my broad background in engineering and manufacturing and water management and design and construction, global patents. This is something that I am most importantly really passionate about and enjoying. Right. So this is an exciting time for me. Been working on this for a couple of years, and it's fantastic to be sitting here talking to you about these exciting projects. Yeah.
And, those diverse skill sets, look, as you well know, it takes a village, as the saying goes, to really build something from scratch.
That's right. You're spot on. It's all about those learnings, but working with a great team of people as well. So those important values and experience that I've had, I haven't done it by myself. So it's a great network and of people surrounding yourself and working with a great team of people in these fields of expertise, because that's one thing that we've really focused on, is that diverse background and having a really good, close-knit, trusted relationship with all the key people, with all those specific areas of expertise that we're all adding value with our skill sets and working together. That's why it's really exciting to be part of this team. And we're all learning off each other every day. The moment you think you're not learning, is not the right way to. Learning these new things every day is exciting, particularly even talking to you about this and your experience doing this with you guys. I really enjoy this.
Great. Hey, one of the things that we like is investing in structural thematics, and certainly one of those structural thematics is copper. It's an incredible supply-demand imbalance globally. Anywhere you look, that really is, whether it's now or for the next 10 years. And I guess, turning towards Coolabah, specifically, you have a potential VMS project. Can you just talk to us a little bit about that one?
Oh, look, with I can talk about it, we can hand over to, and you're talking about the volcanic associated massive sulfide deposits at our Coolabah project. That's what you're talking about. And yes, when you look at particularly our close proximity with our tenements, when we just talk about a Coolabah project, close to projects like Triton and Avoca Tank and the new discovery Constellation, and we're only a stone throw away from those tenements, those projects, and our Coolabah project being 1,177 square kilometres and 4 tenements surrounding those areas. And when we talk about it being that very similar terrain, certainly underexplored, that region. So we've been working significantly with regards to our specific targets, but when you look at what's nearby and you talk about that similar deformed, remobilized, Bessie type volcanic massive sulfide, the VMS that you're talking about,
Yes.
it's quite significant, particularly at that Coolabah project.
Right. And so can you just tell us what is the state of the project right now? What has been done, and maybe what's going to happen over the next 12 months there?
I can talk about that one. It's good to, I'd like to invite David in to talk about some details, and then I can talk about the big picture. But we've certainly been doing a lot of work with regards and what you're talking about with regards to our targets that we have been working on. We've been very systematic with regards, and Dave can talk about some of our geophysical and geochemical targets that we have already identified. And we're just doing a little bit more systematic, intensive exploration to narrow that down, and then we're into the drilling. But I'll hand over to Dave to talk about some specifics.
Yeah, sure. Look,
yeah,
sure. So so Greg, like I've been in the industry since the mid-90s in New South Wales. I'm a geologist. I also represent Bacchus Resources as the vendor of the projects. So you know them well. I'm going to jump in as a bit of the background there. So the projects were being vended by Bacchus Resources, and they've been held by Bacchus for some time. So Bacchus have locked onto a pretty good development project elsewhere, and as a result, we haven't been able to progress the projects as we would have liked. So we haven't been able to explore these projects on their own right. So rather than let them sit there and do nothing forever, and sit on them, we're letting someone else have a bit of a go, and that's Coolabah at this stage. So are we sharing the screen, Cam? Are we going to bring up some geology maps if we were talking about rocks?
Are you able to do that?
Oh, okay. Is that me? Sorry.
Wait, hang on
I think if
I'm going to change it right now. You should be able to do it now, David.
So
yep, there you go.
Very good.
Okay. So I'm just going to flick through a couple of these things. There's a standard disclaimer page. I can put it personally as myself. There's the team, Cameron and myself, and Steve Woodham. So Steve has got a lot of experience in the area as well, being a founder of YTC, which is now Aurelia, and amongst many other things. So between us, we've got somewhere between 50 and 60 years of experience doing exploration in New South Wales. And I'll just, because we'd already jumped through to the geology, I'm going to slip through. We all know about copper demand. We know where the world is on that. So project areas. So this is three main project areas. So there are two projects in New South Wales and one near Mount Isa in Queensland. So the Coolabah project effectively surrounds on the west side of the Aeris projects, which are the key point for Aeris is that they have an operating mine at Tritton, which is producing over 20,000 tonnes per annum of copper, and they're doing an enormous amount of exploration work. So one of their significant discoveries more recently is the Constellation deposit, which they only just drilled about 12 to 18 months ago, and there's a really significant new discovery in New South Wales. So there's the project areas. You can see that they're just located there near Nyngan and Cobar. So in the bottom right-hand side there, we've got a bit of an outline of our current exploration strategy, which is we're not reinventing the wheel here. So all of the Aeris recent work that they've done and the recent discoveries they've made with Constellation has really given us a good lead in to how we go about finding these massive sulfide copper deposits. And it's just electromagnetics. So we swing a big magnet a metal detector underneath a helicopter, and we might have all seen one of these. And where it comes up with an anomaly, we'll stick a hole in it. Like, it's not, we're not reinventing the wheel. It's very simple, well arranged strategy. Yeah.
And David, certainly Aris's success over the last 2 years has, I'd imagine, giving you a tremendous amount of confidence.
Oh, absolutely. Like, and someone said to me the other day, he said every time they kick a bush, another copper deposit falls out of it. So,
right.
And you can see that on the left-hand side image, we're only showing a portion of our exploration licenses. So all of the Aris exploration ground falls immediately east. So those 4 exploration licenses are 4, they're called 100-unit exploration licenses, which are the biggest exploration license you're allowed to have in New South Wales. So there's 4 contiguous licenses, and all of the ground immediately east of that is being explored really strongly by Aris, using exactly the same methodologies, and we're just going to follow that same path.
Right. If it makes sense, do it to access, right?
Absolutely. So it's not a completely blind path. So on the right-hand side image there, you can see that those pink and red points are actually rock samples, surface rock chip samples that are better than 500 parts per million copper. So there's copper anomalism, there's some existing geophysical anomalies, and none of these things have been followed up. We're just going to wheel in with the big metal detector and pinpoint where they are and knock a few holes in them. So we've already have the electromagnetic surveys are already planned. They'll be starting very shortly after. So Cameron can talk about this after, about the timeline. But we booked them in months and months ago. So pay the deposit, and they'll be ready to start very shortly after the IPO. So there's a bit of a rundown on Coolabah.
Right. And maybe to just pause for one moment, David,
Sure.
Cameron, on the timeline, as you described it, can you just give us a very brief summation?
Look, good question. Obviously, with everything, quick summary, we're aiming to be listed and ringing the bell on June 22nd.
No, I meant for the Coolabah project itself.
Oh, the Coolabah project. Well, our first, as Ben was talking about, we've got that airborne electromagnetic survey booked in. We booked this in back 6 months ago, really proactively. So hopefully, as I said, ring the bell on that within a week or less than, all being well, we'll be conducting that survey over that region that David was talking about. So within a week, all being well, I said, that survey will be conducted. And then that next phase is obviously getting the results. And then that takes could take 5 or 6 weeks to get those results. And then we have those targeted anomalies from that EM survey, and then we drill. And then another part of that is doing those downhole electromagnetic surveys at Coolabah. So within the first quarter, and it's been conservative, we've done the surveys, we've narrowed that down with the anomalies, and then we have commenced the drilling. So the timing for Coolabah project, if we hadn't booked this in 6 months ago, we wouldn't, without being that proactive, we wouldn't be talking about this timeline now. So yeah, it's very, very close timing wise, and already lined up, liaising with the contractors now on a weekly basis to confirm that time. And as I said, the EM survey airborne, and then once we get those results, as I said, it can be 4 to 6 weeks conservatively, and then we commence that drilling of those anomalies. And then on that timeline, we have that DHEM, which is the downhole electromagnetic surveys as well. So within the first quarter, we are right into the Coolabah project excitedly.
Fantastic. And then, guys, just moving on to the NYMAGEE project, can you just talk about
NYMAGEE? Yeah.
Sorry for butchering the pronunciation. It must be in my American accent.
Oh, that's all right. NYMAGEE.
Yeah. So I'll go here, Zemco. So NYMAGEE is 3 contiguous exploration licenses. So a bit like at Coolabah, they actually flank some existing significant mines. So on this map here, so Hira, which is just within a few kilometres of the exploration licence boundary, is the operating mine that are run by Aurelia. So Aurelia have gone from strength to strength. That was their start point. Our chairman was a founding director of YTC, which became Aurelia. So that is a high grade, primarily zinc and gold deposit. So they've since found another deposit called Federation, which is about 10 kilometres to the south, which is arguably one of the best deposits in that Coolabah field in the last 20 years. So they've actually just started the box cut. So they started the preliminary mining exercise for Federation. So one of the key things for Federation for us is that there's been a lot of significant scientific research being done by the New South Wales Geological Survey. So some of this information started coming out in 2017, and what you'll see is Joel Fitzherbert is quoted quite often in our prospectus and our presentation here as well. So the areas, so the deposit styles used to be always referred to as a VMS style seafloor excavative type deposit. So in order to find one of those, you need to be in a very specific age stratigraphic horizon. But what is discovered for these deposits is that they're not VMSs, they're intrusive related deposits. So that just opens up the entirety of the area immediately adjacent to those existing deposits. And this is what we're trying to demonstrate with these two images, is that the old historic understanding of these deposit styles means that you need to be confined to this one narrow stratigraphic horizon. Right. And now that the model has changed for how these deposits formed, it opens up all of these other areas that are immediately adjacent. So we have geophysical anomalies within those areas that are very similar to what you see at here at NYMAGEE and Federation. These deposits, they also form gravity highs. So we've got another geophysical survey, which will get some results back very close to post listing as well for some gravity anomalism. So this will be something to look out for this area. Will be some of these gravity anomalies which occur immediately adjacent to these Hira and NYMAGEE and Federation deposits. So that's NYMAGEE itself. So a lot of these areas haven't been explored because of that prior model for how these deposits form. So a lot of these areas have not been explored as a result of just a change in understanding opens everything up for prospectivity.
And David or Cameron, either one, what would the timeline over the next 12 months look for here for the project?
That's a good question. Again, talking about just reinforcing that Falcon airborne gravity survey and drilling for NYMAGEE, we've got that all planned within the first month of next financial year. So July, teeing up. And again, this is something we've been working on proactively over the last 4 or 5 months since the beginning of the year to line this timeline up. Again, if we hadn't been, it would be well delayed, but according to our timeline, which we love to share, that Falcon Airborne Gravity Survey information, again, will be back to us in July, and then we'll be drilling. And then we'll also be doing the geochem anomalies there too. And then studying that. So the first quarter, we'll be nailing down those targets and drilling those anomalies at NYMAGEE in July, August as well. That is the plan. Really pleased as we reinforce that thing about Coolabah and the initiatives at NYMAGEE happening very early in the piece.
So something that we probably haven't. Sorry, Cam, something we probably haven't.
Oh, you're right. You go.
Is that Bacchus access to drilling rigs is a bit of a thing in the market at the moment, and Bacchus Resources, the vendor, who are going to be about a 10% shareholder, also have a drilling business. So our managing director Vaughan is also managing director of a drilling company. And he said that he's starting to get a bit excited as well. And he said that if necessary, I'll get out there and get on the levers on the drilling rig myself. So
fantastic. There's definitely a skills
really,
shortage out
really
there.
good.
yeah, that's right.
There is, and it's all about booking these things in early. If we weren't proactive as we were doing this all the way back to talking about this in October, November, December, and locking things in early, we certainly wouldn't be sitting here excitedly talking about the fact that these things will be happening. Virtually ring the bell and we're into it.
Great.
At both Coolabah and at NYMAGEE. Yeah.
Excellent. And let's not forget about your gold project up north, Gunpowder Creek. Can you just talk about that a little bit? Oh, here you go.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
So Gunpowder Creek is near Mount Isa. So on the existing map here, so Mount Isa is in what is the Mount Isa fault. So you can see on the left-hand image there's Mount Isa. Down on the bottom right-hand side, there's a large fault system running up the eastern side of a large granite called the Cibella granite, and then on the west side of the fault, there's another. The west side of the granite, there's another fault called the May Downs fault. So along the May Downs fault, there is a line of numerous historic workings at its shafts that exist on a 5-kilometre strike, and they're not lead, zinc, and silver and copper. They're gold. So because they're gold, they haven't had a drill hole in not one of them. So, and you can see the image on the right-hand side, the little inset there. Some rock chips have been picked up, and some of these are running 1 ounce per tonne. There's a track runs right along the side. Some of these old workings. And it's just a matter of wheeling out there with a drilling rig and drilling a few holes under some of these old shafts to see if they carry. They continue on at depth. So again, not a complicated story, but there's always a good chance when you're drilling under some old shafts that are running up to 1 ounce per tonne.
Yeah, but David, these aren't just any rock chips. These are seriously high grade rock chips. Does that give you a different feeling? The grade is just off the charts, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Like some of the rock chips. So the 32 grams per tonne is a big number, right? And it's very rare. It's very rare to have those big numbers. And honestly, there hasn't been much work done on this project yet. So there's no drill holes ever been drilled. Yeah, it's got a bit of excitement just in that respect. Yeah.
Gotcha. Hey, Cameron, I want to turn over to you for a second to talk more about on the corporate side. The company, we're all here today because of the upcoming IPO. Maybe before we get into the slide itself, can you just talk about the background, like why the IPO now?
This is something that I've been working on. I suppose it goes back to, and I don't want to steal David's thunder on this, because we're all really passionate about this project and have been since we started talking about this over, close to 12 months ago. And as I said, David's got some really good things that I'd like to let him add to it from a personal, passionate point of view. But in simple terms, when we reviewed these strategies, it's all about, and obviously the work with Bacchus, but what we are doing is simply expediting these projects. And I know we talk about all these external influences, but when you look at these big picture, the long-term demands for the minerals that we're talking about, the copper specifically and the gold, for the long term, we are really excited about this, and particularly with regards to the tenements of the underexplored tenements in these world-class terrains at Lachlan Fold Belt and Mount Isa. This is something that when we started talking about it, it's obviously going through all the proper due diligence processes and procedures to line all this up. But that's the reason, and that's why we're doing it. It was really about expediting these exciting projects. And I guess Ben, you can talk a little bit personally about it, to share that, to reiterate that passion why we're doing what we're doing.
Love to hear it.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Look, I mean, I've been looking at some of these areas for maybe 10 years. And sometimes, and I would really like to see them progress. But what has just happened is that we're working on a development project in the Northern Territory. Back us as is, and we just don't, we don't have the resources and personnel available. We need to hand this on and give someone else a go in order for us to get get some of that value from the project areas. There's a lot of upside to be had, so there's not much point holding on to something and not progressing it.
Yep. As they say, you can't get a hit unless you get in a batter's box.
That's a good comment. Yeah.
Cameron, as far as timing, what does the timeline look like for the IPO?
Ty, that's a good question. So just going back one step, we lodged the prospectus on the 29th of April and passed the 7-week period, and now we opened. It's now, obviously we're talking about this and we're open. The closing date is the 6th of June, but obviously with a lot of interest in this, it may be earlier, but the 6th of June is that closing date. Then we aim, that's that allotment of issues and shares under the offer around the 14th of June. And then dispatch of shares on the 15th, as I said, and then ringing the bell expectedly on the 22nd of June.
Excellent.
With ASX. So it's really exciting to be talking about this period now, to see all this hard work that we've been doing, all the excitement, all the passion that we've had coming to fruition. It's really exciting.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much, guys. Does anybody have a question? I may open it up right now. And also feel free to WhatsApp me. I notice some people are shy. That's okay. Okay, one question, I think it's somewhat obvious, but I'll ask it anyway, is who's lead managing the IPO?
So we've got two really good lead brokers you're talking about. That's your question. So we've got CPS Capital Group and Barclay Pearce Capital. So it's a joint lead manager process, and they're really good to work with, really proactive and helping us along this way. As I said, starting the project and getting the ball rolling from all the beginning, the due diligence process, and then getting this to the market. So they're the two lead managers. You've got Michael Carter at CPS Capital Group as one of the joint lead managers, and Richard Warner at Barclay Pearce in Sydney. So as I said, two joint lead managers.
Fantastic. A question just coming in on a chat box. Are the historic gold workings at Gunpowder, are they at surface or deep?
Yeah, so they're all of those are exposed at surface. So they're a lot of artisanal workings. So a lot of shallow pits, shafts, exploration pits. Yeah, all at surface.
Okay.
But they come from the bottom, not from the top. So they'll always extend at depth. Got
it. Okay. Someone else is asking me, and this is for either of you. Zinc, you mentioned there's prospective zinc. What gives you the feeling that it would be there?
Yeah, so from a zinc perspective, there's probably a couple of different avenues. So there is some zinc anomalism that we haven't talked about much on the northern end of the Mount Isa block. The gold is in that area is probably the primary objective, because it's an ounce per tonne, but there is a bit of zinc that would need some follow-up. The key zinc targets would be at NYMAGEE. So those the existing deposits that are just there alongside the NYMAGEE project, which is here in Federation, are both high-grade zinc deposits, primarily with gold. So they talk about them being gold projects, but there's, if you look at some of that stuff coming out of Aurelia, they're double-digit zinc numbers out of those two projects.
Gotcha. Okay, and there are a few questions coming in here. I'll ask them in order from David. What are the existing options, the exercise price and expiry? This is from the capital.
Okay. You've got that table up. Yeah, so we've got those options on issue date of the prospectus. Is that what you're talking about, the 7.5 for current holders? Yes, they're current. There's one thing that we do talk about, which is that reward loyalty shareholder the loyalty options. That's one thing that I imagine they're talking about, which is all about rewarding loyal shareholders down the track. So
Okay.
there is a thing in our prospectus in section 3.7 that talks about that capital structure and that option for including loyalty options for, and with that, I suppose that specific intent of rewarding loyal shareholders down the track. So those options on issue, the prospectus are there. There are also these other options, part of that capital structure. So there's additional ones that we talk about, but that hasn't been determined. That's to be determined by the board within the first 6 months. Does that answer that question about the options and then those loyalty options that we're also considering?
I assume so, David. And if not, feel free to ask a follow-up or just send me a message either ways, any way you want.
Yeah.
And if you think about it later, that's totally fine too. I'm sure the Cameron can come back to us.
Certainly happy to come back with more. Yes, certainly
Yeah.
happy to help with more information anytime. Happy to. Yes.
Right. And then there's a follow-up question, but not related. Is there much soil cover over gunpowder?
No, so gunpowder, I'm not sure how many people have been to Mount Isa, but there is lots of rocks sticking out of the ground at gunpowder. And I would say there is zero soil cover.
Okay.
It's the rocks are very exposed there. I think that that from a first stage point of view, to validate some of those rock chip samples would just be a matter of taking out a hammer and a pair of boots, and we're into it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Excellent. Okay, everyone. Well, it's past 12 o'clock here, at least in Melbourne, depending wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, as you can tell, management team is very friendly. Cameron, David, thank you so much. If anyone has any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to ask us. Obviously, you can reach out to CPS and Barclay Pierce as well. Thank you guys very much for your time. In conclusion, here again, we know that the markets have been choppy. Therefore, we are focusing on those companies that do have that multi-bagger type of upside, because we need to get paid for that risk. And that's what we think is on offer here right now with Coolabah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Greg.
I think it's just cut out.
I think he's just cut out.
Cameron, I'm not sure what you wanted to say exactly. Maybe the internet's just gone down at this time.
I think he was probably trying to say some of those things that we should be looking out for is if we get some of those electromagnetic anomalies and gravity anomalies at Coolabah and NYMAGEE in the very early stage, we'll be drilling them very soon. They're the things to be looking out for, is those basement conductors and gravity anomalies on those two key projects. And we'll drill them as soon as practicable.
Yes, and calendar Q3 obviously is going to be an incredibly exciting period of time for you. Probably, it coincides perfectly with the IPO, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Rick.
Bye-bye.